Somebody help us.
This is Timeless African Stories by Uju. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Now let's get right back into the story.
Afam was only 6 years old when the fire accident that claimed the lives of his father and his 2 siblings took place. A lot of years had now passed, but the memories from that day still lingered painfully fresh in Afam's mind. He could still remember how his parents had kissed him goodbye that Saturday morning and left for their usual daily routines. His father was a successful farmer and his mother a trader who sold fresh foodstuffs from the farm. They had left him in the hands of his 2 elder sisters that day as usual. If only they knew that this particular Saturday was not going to be like the others. Afam was busy playing in the sitting room that afternoon as his sisters prepared lunch, when suddenly a loud sound erupted from the kitchen and smoke immediately began filling the whole house. Afam felt the heat even before he saw the fire. The last thing he remembered that day before he blacked out was screaming at the top of his lungs and then coughing until he could no longer breathe. He awoke in the hospital a few months later, scarred and burned by the fire. When he asked his mother for his father and his sisters, Norma only stared at him with bloodshot eyes, unable to bring herself to tell him the truth. It was only after he had grown much older that she explained everything to him. She told him of how the fire was caused by the kerosene which his sisters had purchased that afternoon, unbeknownst to them that it was adulterated, and it exploded in their faces the moment they lit a matchstick next to it. His father had come back earlier than usual that day and had found him almost dead on the floor. He quickly got him out of there and tried to go back in to save his sisters, but the villagers held him back, pleading that it was too dangerous. Papa Afam paid no heed to them and ran inside like a madman, but it was already too late. The girls were long gone and were already consumed by the flames. The raging fire grew wilder and caused the whole building to collapse, trapping the poor man inside. Afam and his mother had now accepted their sorry fate and made peace with the fact that they were now all alone in this world. Things had become so difficult for them as they had lost everything they had in the fire. In the beginning, some kind villagers and former friends of her husband tried to show their support by gifting them food, money, clothes, and other resources they needed to survive. But Norma still struggled to make ends meet after they were all used up. Afam had to quit school because she couldn't raise his fees. She had managed to train him up to the end of junior secondary school by selling most of her wrappers which she received from some kind friends, but she couldn't continue any longer. Afam understood and told her that he was even glad that he did not have to go to school anymore because they always made fun of him and his scars. Norma felt hurt listening to her son's words, and that night they held each other tight in each other's arms, silently weeping for all that they had lost. Afam now spent most of his time helping his mother in the farm and helping her sell foodstuffs in the market. He still received 1 or 2 mean comments from people from time to time, saying he was cursed with his ugly scarred face and that he would never amount to anything. Most times in the market, little children would run away from him, crying and calling him names like Ojuju Calabar. This hurt him so many times, but he promised that he wouldn't let their actions get to him. He woke up every day with a positive outlook, thinking to himself that at least he was lucky to have survived the accident and he was going to make the best out of the opportunity. Afam couldn't really remember much about his father, except that he was a passionate artist and a painter. When his father was alive, He would sit with him so many times in his old workshop, watching him create magic with his hands. He couldn't understand how his father was able to create such beautiful paintings by just using a few brushes and colors, and this marked the beginning of Afam's love for painting as well. He began following his father's every move and instructions, and soon he began creating amazing artworks just like his father. His father marveled at his deftness at that young age and always said to him,
"My son, one day you're going to be so great that the world will be forced to recognize you."
So Afam carried with him this passion even after his father's passing. Whenever he felt sad or depressed by the events in his life, he would turn to painting and instantly forget about his problems. He found comfort and drew strength from his art. He would go into his little makeshift workshop heavy laden and come out feeling like a new being. Even though the future didn't look too bright for him, Afam always believed that one day it would be better because he could see his dreams coming to pass in his paintings. One evening, as Afam sat resting after a long day's work at the farm, he heard an announcement on the radio about an art competition that was being organized by some foreigners in the hunt for local talents in the village. Afam immediately noted the details of the competition and decided to give it a try. The next day, after informing his mother of his plans, he rushed to the application center to apply. As he filled out forms and submitted his details, he had two adults by the corner talking about him in hushed tones. How does this boy even have the courage to take part in the competition? He will just scare the judges away with that his monstrously looking face.
"My dear, I'm telling you, if I were him, I would hide in my house forever and never show my face."
Afam ignored them and quickly finished up his task so that he could leave there immediately. As he submitted the forms and hurried out of the office, trying to escape the vicious glares from the people there, he heard another woman saying spiteful things and asking why he was even allowed to take part in the competition. Afam walked home silently wiping tears away from his eyes and promising himself that he wouldn't cry. But the pain became too much to bear, and he stopped walking and let the tears flow freely. He had received so many hate comments in his life and had even gotten used to them, but the ones he had today really broke him. The hot tears stung his delicate skin, and he wished that the accident had never happened. He wished he could go back in time to warn his sisters about the kerosene they bought that afternoon. Then everything would be fine. But the more he wished, the more the tears came, because deep down in his heart, he knew that none of his wishes could ever come true. He wiped his tears with the back of his hand and headed home with a sullen demeanor. As soon as he got home, he headed straight to his workshop. Canvas after canvas, image after image, he felt his burden getting lighter. He hadn't realized how long he had been there until his mother called for him twice. "Yes, Mama," he answered, dashing out of the room immediately, with his whole hands and body covered in paint. And in that moment, Norma, who was initially angry, took one look at him and couldn't help but smile and shake her head, for she knew that this was his only medium of escape from his troubles, so she let him go. On the day of the competition, the village square buzzed with excitement as the villagers gathered to witness the activities. People whispered and pointed as Afam arrived with his tools and equipment. They were amused at his courage to show up for such a grand event, but Afam and his mother ignored their sneers and skeptical looks. Norma said a prayer for her son and encouraged him to do what he knows best. "Go out there and show them that you are your father's son." The competition began, and each candidate was given ample time to complete their work. Afam began, making the most gentle strokes and pouring his whole emotions into his work. There were different categories in the competition. There were the wood carvers, the artists, the potters, and the craftsmen, of which one winner was to be picked from each category. At the end of the competition, the judges began careful examination of each candidate's work. Afam watched anxiously from a corner, hoping that he had done well enough. He watched as they came to a halt when they reached his painting, exchanging quick glances and words among themselves. "This is incredible," one of them said. "Who is the artist?" the other asked. Afam saw them talking but couldn't make out what they said, and this made him even more anxious. "Who is the owner of this work?" one of the judges asked out loud. I am the one," Afam answered, scared and reluctant. The judges looked genuinely shocked. They couldn't believe he was really the artist behind such an amazing piece. "Are you really the one that did this?" they asked in amazement. "Yes, I'm the one," he replied. Afam was then announced as the overall winner of the competition and the winner of his category, much to the shock of the villagers. The judges went on to rain accolades on him, saying that his work was extraordinary and one of a kind, that they had never seen anything like it. On top of all the awards he received, they also gave him an offer to showcase his work all over the world. Norma shed tears of joy as she danced and danced and danced. People from all over the world who had heard of Afam's extraordinary paintings came to the village to see for themselves, and Afam's life changed in an instant. His paintings garnered international attention, and he began traveling from place to place, city to city, sharing his story and his art with his mother by his side. His success brought recognition and prosperity to the village, and the same people who once mocked and ridiculed him now sang his praises. Whenever he visited the village, little children and adults would gather around him to listen and draw inspiration from his stories. He became a role model to many in the village, and his name remained etched in their minds for many years to come.